To keep yourself updated, subscribe to Indigo Learn and click the bell icon and download our app OneFin to start learning on the go.
Hello everyone. So today we are here with a review of the audit paper for the November 2022 examination. So the CA Inter audit paper has been considerably good. So we could say that compared to the previous examination, this was a sigh of relief to all of us. So basically, when I went through the paper, I was really happy because this time the questions were quite acceptable and the students could find it easy to answer. You could not rate the question paper to be very difficult. Obviously, we cannot say it's easy. But yes, it's a moderate average kind of paper. This time, Institute has been good with the audit paper. So this is the basic idea that the paper has not been very difficult. Every student with a decent preparation would be able to attempt all the questions. So when I spoke about the MCQs, that is the review that I got from the MCQ type of questions, the students had the response that few of the MCQs were complicated. Otherwise, remaining all the MCQs, that is out of 30, the 4 to 5 MCQs were extremely difficult. Otherwise, they were decently okay. They were manageable. So basic idea is if you have the conceptual clarity, I think this paper was quite good to answer. Obviously, when we talk about paper like audit, so this paper will give you an understanding that if you have just a vague reading, that is if you are going to have only an overview of any of the subject, you don't get into a detailing of any subject, you could face a difficult time in the examination. Topics like bank audit, LLP, then we have topics like the special audit, audit of items of financial statements. Company audit was quite less when compared to the previous one. Okay, so overall the paper was quite that something that we could expect. Okay, so it couldn't be something we can say is taken up for a surprise, or there was a question which was completely out of the box. So, and one more thing here, when we do the RTP lectures and all, we always keep telling that please do the RTPs, they are very important. So this paper has actually given the importance how well we need to prepare for the RTPs of this year, this attempt, for the previous examination and even before that. Because there are some questions here directly picked up from the previous RTPs, and that shows how important it is for us to take up the RTP seriously. Overall, an average paper for the student, and if the student has really prepared well, then I think facing a paper like this would be actually manageable. Yes, I would say that if you compare to the previous examination, that is the May 22 examination, this has been much better paper. So compared to that, I would call this to be an easy one. Alright. So here, like automated environment topic, the focus has been there. Then there has been a focus on audit sampling, bank audit, LLP, and audit of items of financial statement, which we consider it to be one of the most important ones. This paper shows that yes, it is important. Almost around 14 marks we get from that topic. Special audits, as we always know, there is going to be a sure question coming from there. So cinemas is a kind of the audit which has been targeted. Alright. So overall, you cannot say something which has been completely different. Some of the questions which have been repeated from the past, some which have appeared in the RTP's previous examinations. So considerably a good paper to attempt, and new questions very rarely have been framed. There is one on the audit sampling which has been new, but I think it is not completely new. A part of it has already been there earlier discussed. So something extra elements had to be added. Otherwise, overall, this was a fairly manageable paper with a comfort zone that you could do. And time management was quite easy. I don't think any student would have faced difficulty in managing the time here. Alright, so with this, let us get started with the understanding of the question and see how well you must have attempted it. Okay. So first is regarding the correct and incorrect. Alright, so here basically the questions have really not been difficult. So if you see all of them, so we had to, the answer was any 7, alright, like always. So first is about the automated environment. Second, they ask you about the historical financial information. Then it is about audit documentation. Okay, that is we focus on SA 230. Then about the company audit, analytical procedures 520. Then about the annual report. Alright, so for this the audit of items have to be done well. Then SA 240, they have spoken about primary responsibility. So these are quite simple questions where a student with the fundamentals of the audit being very clear will be able to actually attempt all of them. Then here it is with regard to the auditor is not required to include this in the CARO report. So CARO reporting has been there, and this examination with questions from CARO basically we did expect, because if you look at the, the new things which come in the institute or whenever some new applicability is there, obviously the institute will definitely focus on the questioning. So Caro, if any question comes, nobody will go for a surprise because the questions from Caro were quite expected. Alright, so here actually I would say 14 mark scoring would be possible. Even if you do a smart selection of the questions correctly, where you're expert in, I think you could score here really well. Alright, then. Moving to the next one, the question comes from the 2A talks about audit of items of financial statement where they're questioning on the equity shares, the sweat equity shares. They ask you the meaning of sweat equity and the disclosure requirements. So here your knowledge regarding the Schedule 3 of the Companies Act 2013 should be important. So we say that when you prepare for audit, the accounting frameworks also have to be quite well understood. So this question tested you on that and it's for 4 marks. Alright, then. Next we talk about under which circumstances can a client make a request to the auditor for change in terms of engagement. Whenever we do SA 210, I think this is one of those areas where we actually focus and say that students have to concentrate on this particular area. Alright, so I basically remember that whenever we do SA 210, when we talk about the importance of SA 210, always we focus on this particular question and say that there could be, like for recurring audits, there is no need for, having a new engagement letter every time. So which are the circumstances where in the case of recurring audits, the auditor and the client could have a new terms of engagement being drafted. Okay, so there are, we study in the standard where there are situations like that. So quite a straightforward one. So this is quite acceptable. So 14 marks, I think you can get it here. Okay, the question which I said was newly formed was regarding audit sample. What are the matters that the auditor shall consider while designing a sample? Alright, so this was a new question that was framed. Okay, so that if your knowledge about SA 530 was quite good, you'll be able to attempt it. Then comes to the audit of automated environment where they have actually questioned about access security controls. Okay, what is the objective of the access security and what are the activities included therein? So when you talk about the access security, like having the username, passwords, then protecting the data, okay, unauthorized access, okay, so all of those things we study. This also a quite straight question, so we cannot say a new one or something out of the box. If you have done the topic well, you'll be able to easily write the answer for this. Then we talk about the objective of the auditing is to design and perform the audit procedures so that he is able to obtain sufficient appropriate evidence. This can be obtained by, okay, so this is a quite simple question, okay, about performing audit procedures. Name the types of audit procedure that the auditor can perform. So I think a much simpler question than this cannot come. So they have questioned you about the types of audit procedures. So we do inspection, we do recalculation, reperformance, correct, analytical procedures, external confirmations we take, right? So these are the questions regarding on what are the audit procedures used to obtain the evidences. Okay, so this I think you can easily answer. Then we talk about the next one. Mrs. SS and Associates have been appointed as statutory auditor of Green Limited, a company engaged in the business of manufacture of hardware. They are analyzing the monthly trends for the expenses like rent, power, fuel, repairs, etc. and are also verifying the attributes of such type of expenses. List down the attributes of verifying such expenses. So this question is based on the analytical procedures. I think this also is quite manageable. So you have to simply write the attributes for verifying the expenses. Alright, then. While auditing the books of accounts of Solar Limited, you observe that the amount due from debtor for invoice is so much has not been recognized. You want to ensure that all the trade receivable balances that are supposed to be recorded have been recognized in the financial statement. How would you achieve? Again, you have the audit of items of financial statements here. So here it's about the debtors. Okay, then. Again, this is what is the disclosure requirements. So purely this question is based on the same thing. So if you look at all the questions here, so 3A is talking about the procedure. B also talks about the procedures because they're all the expenses that we are going to check. Okay, so attributes, the assertions that you have to check it. Then here you're talking about debtors and here basically talk about disclosure requirements. So the entire question is about audit of items. Okay, so you can understand here how important it is to cover this topic. Okay, and the institute study material covers this really well. Okay, so if you have done a proper preparation for this, I think this entire part you can score. Alright, and if you have not prepared, this is the one you leave for option because all come from the same topic. Alright, then. Moving on to the next one, it is about the control environment. So the management has appointed CR to review the internal control system of the company as they feel that there are lapses in the control environment of the company. What is included in the control environment? So this is we do as a direct question. And what will the auditor evaluate in order to obtain understanding of control environment? So basically from internal control, you also can give a reference to 315. Okay, then next we talk about the appointed 3 CA firms for it, that is joint audit, for which audit work of the joint auditors will be jointly and severally responsible. So when we do SA 299, very clearly in the standard they have given you the areas where the joint auditors would be jointly and severally responsible, like especially those areas which have not been divided, the common areas, correct? So wherever planning is involved, okay, all those areas where how much ever we divide the work, there are going to be some common areas where all of them will be jointly and severally responsible. So we call them to be areas where common responsibility is there. So the division of work will not come, they will be responsible for it, like planning is one of the example. Alright, so but that is very clearly given in SA 299, you could pick from there. Then comes to the next one. ABC Limited has many divisions and branches across the country. They have an internal control system as well established, maintained by the management. Explain the meaning. Meaning is very simple, where we talk about care, right? So that is, we say it is designed, implemented and maintained by the management and TCWG. Okay, for what purpose? Compliance of law and regulation, correct? Then for safeguarding of the assets, for reliable financial reporting, efficiency and effective operations, correct? So that is given in 315, a straightforward question again, and the benefits of understanding the internal control. So for this you understand how important it is, the topic of internal control. So when we do the analysis of studying the topics on priority, risk assessment and internal control, we always prioritize because questions from there really appear in the exam. Alright, then what are the examples of analytical procedures? So this is quite acceptable and quite easy one, a straightforward again from SA 520. So examples for analytical procedure, you can have the trend analysis, okay, then reasonableness check, etc., ratios and all. So these are all the analytical procedures, but here also give the meaning of what are analytical procedures and then we can elaborate the answer. Alright, then next question is regarding what will be the reporting responsibility casted on CAN when he forms an opinion and prepares audit report on comparative financial statements. So SA 710. So for the inter level, this is the last standard, okay. So even if you have left for the reporting part, the last standard, with basic idea or basic knowledge you'll be able to attempt it, okay. So not a very difficult question and it's a repeated one also. So it was there in the previous either RTPs or somewhere the question has been appeared, so it's not a brand new question that you have. Moving on to the next one, we talk about a firm of chartered accountants has 3 partners, namely R, A and P. R is a whole-time employee, okay, so he is disqualified for becoming the auditor. Mr. A and P do not hold any audits in their personal capacity. So each auditor will have 20 audits. So 20 into 2, they'll be having 40. So altogether the firm can take up 40 company audits. Okay, the firm currently has statutory audits of 40 public companies. They are offered statutory audit public, this thing, no, they cannot take it, okay, because they've exhausted the limit here. So this is quite simple question. So 4 marks, alright. Then Mr. A and P do not hold any audits in their personal capacity or as partners of the other firms. The firm currently has statutory audit, yeah, correct. They cannot take it, okay. Then next, CAM is an engagement partner of West Limited. He has instructed his audit team to maintain proper audit documentation. We always believe that in the CA inter paper, there is going to be a question coming from planning. There will be a question coming from SA 230 documentation, okay. So a paper without that usually never happens. The audit team members are not sure about the purpose for which, a very simple question. What is the purpose of audit documentation? Okay, so as per SA 230. Then, you notice a misstatement resulting from fraud or suspected fraud during the audit and conclude that it is not possible to continue the performance. As a statutory auditor, how will you deal with it? So you give a reference to SA 240. Okay, and you have an option of both, communicating to TCWG first. If they agree and are able to, disclose it, then you could continue, or you also get the option to withdraw. But then you always have to remember that you have to inform the regulatory bodies and authorities. So that is what you write here. If it is a company, you could also give the CARO reporting, and if it's company, if the client is company, CARO reporting would come, and also you would give a reference to, section 143, subsection 12. Okay, but obviously it has to be a company for that matter. Okay, then sixth one talks about what are reporting requirements under CARO. Okay, for repayment of loans and fine. So CARO reporting is fine. So again here they have given you about the clause of the CARO reporting. So this was again expected question. The audit team started audit and verified the ledger. So it's about Multiplex Cinema Limited. So if you see from the special audits, obviously every time we have a question, here the question is on cinemas. Okay. So here they're asking you, can you guide the audit team about the areas that will be required in covering the internal control mechanism? Okay, so it is about special audits, cinema. Okay. Finally, we have the last one. It is about bank audit. Okay, what are the aspects that will be verified by CAR for this purpose? Here, if you read the question, Card Limited is into the banking business and handles large amount of loans in advance. NPR on the rise last 2 quarters. The management is concerned with correct provisioning. So basically here you have to see the provisioning requirement, and here you have to actually give what are the provisioning required for different types of NPAs, standard, substandard, doubtful and all that. And if you give the provisioning correct, I think that will be suffice for the answer. Now the C part of this question talks about municipal corporation. They want to again verify various expenditure of municipality. So again it comes as a part of special audit. Define the term municipality and state what are the heads of expenditure by the municipality corporations can be broadly classified. Now this part you can actually manage because that's quite straightforward, but define the term municipality, I think students would find it difficult because that much concentration we don't give on such kind of definitions or this kind of the content which is given. So this could be a problem where students would find it difficult to define it, otherwise the rest of the question you would be able to attempt. Then comes to the favorite part of the examination, that is how can there be a paper without LLP. And here they have only question about what are the books of accounts that LLP is required to maintain. I would call this to be an easy question. If you have done the audit of LLP, you will be able to know very easily which books are to be maintained by LLP. Like we have the cash book and all that. So the quite simple understanding is given there. So the books to be maintained. So that was very, very simple coming from LLP. Alright. The question which we really feel is out of the box or is something which we could not attempt. If you are fairly prepared for the standards and the topics well, especially audit of items, automated environment is there, risk assessment, internal control, audit program, audit documentation as a standard, 315 as a standard, correct, 299. So I think this paper was quite comfortable for solving. So we will not definitely call it to be very tough, very difficult. Basically that purely depends upon the preparation, but a student who is decently prepared for this paper, I think will again, as I always say, will come out of the examination hall satisfied and with a smiling face. So that is all about the paper. As and when we do the answers, we'll be moving on with the suggested answers. Alright, with the discussion of the suggested answers.